Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the show. Fernando,
welcome to the show.
Today's video is brought to you by Ground Zero. We're going to be doing some fun stuff in our Ground Zero build project. Specifically, we're going to be working on the back deck here. We're going to be doing some sound treatment. We want to get this area of the car all deadened up and sounding phenomenal. Join us today as we explain that project to you in its entirety, right?
Yeah.
Two areas we're going to be concentrating on today are the trunk lid here, because those always vibrate, and the package tray back here. The first step is getting this seat out of the car so that we can get the package tray out. Each car's package trays come out a little bit different. Usually involves removing the seat. Before you just go yanking on the seat trying to get it up. Not all of them do just pull up. In this case, this one has latches.
Yes.
So reach underneath, there's gonna be two clips holding it. You wanna feel if there's some need to be pinched, some need to be pushed. Some are just convenient levers. The other thing too is that lately they've also been putting, in a lot of cars now, they have extra clips here. So like the front pops up nice and easy, but then they have an extra safety clip. So you have to like push the seat back and have it get beyond that clip and then it'll come up. And of course, in some cars, they have bolts that are located back in this area here. Always gonna be a 10mm and you can fold the seats down and get to it. Fernando seems to be struggling with these seats.
Yeah.
What's going on, man?
I don't know. There's something in there.
It's your seatbelt. Is it the hook on the back?
I think it's the hook in the back.
On this Nissan Altima, this guy here is the problem. Is the hook that's holding the seat from the back. You have to push the seat back and down to have it clear this C-hook right here, and then you can remove the whole seat out of the car. These are the style clips, so in this case, these pull out like this. Some of them have cool little levers that go this way. Older Mustang, they have like you put a screwdriver right here and they pop off. And then like GM, you just gotta grill on it and just kind of like pull the whole thing up.
Some of these you gotta push.
Little tabs. Yep. Basically, be careful when getting these out. You don't want to break them. One of the other things that really sucks about the back seat is the back seat area. These things fold down. So immediately what most people do is they just fold these down and then they sit on them. The problem is they're not made to support that kind of weight from somebody sitting on them for an extended period of time. There's usually only 3 to 5 bolts that hold these on. I strongly recommend if you're going to be spending any time in this area of the car, just unbolt them and take them out. The first step is to remove this little side panel here. Depending on the car, obviously it's going to be different. On the back, there's usually some form of a hook here. Sometimes there's little clips and they come off and then they snap back on. Bolt. What that's going to free up is us getting access to this bolt, or in this case, we just need to remove this bolt and it'll pull the whole hinge with it out. I'm all for pulling the whole hinge out of the car. That way we don't have to worry about getting caught on this and having it cut us. On this car, there is one funky bolt. They always have to be a little difficult. With the last bolt out, typically you have to pull from the bottom. Hold on, let me clip this seat. When they have the 60-40 split like this does, it's always going to be kind of wobbly in the middle. Some seats come all the way apart, meaning this piece will come out on its own and this piece will come out on its own. This one, we're not so fortunate. You also want to keep an eye on that fold-down armrest, kind of hold that in place. And if it's got a middle seat bolt, you need to make sure you get that out of the equation too. That out, that kind of frees up this whole area. As you can see, this will be much easier work. Also, if you're running wires, these are where the wires are going to run through. On that side, you can see the factory wiring harness goes up there, but what you don't see is any wiring anywhere in here. This is a problem that a lot of people make, is they want to run wires underneath the seats, and no, this is a wire-free zone. Factory wiring goes here, factory wiring goes up here. Do the same thing. Don't put any wiring underneath the butt where people are going to sit. It's a bad idea. But we're not talking about wiring today, we're talking about sound treatment. But we need to get this guy out. To do that, we need to pull these 5 pieces here. And the other thing you may want to do, because you have removed the seat, this is not a comfortable place to spend a lot of time, put a blanket down, because there are some cases where there are sharp areas down here. When removing the C-pillar, be careful of this window. It has the rear window defrogger in it, and there's little solder points back here. This is where they clip on to the defroster. Sometimes those are exposed on the outside of the C-pillar. If they are, make sure you're careful pulling these off. You don't want to break those off of the window. It totally sucks. When pulling the rear deck, there's usually way too many clips to hold it in place. Just kind of stick your hand underneath there and work your way to the back. Unplug the third brake light, remove the rear deck. Now here's what we have. A nice big piece of For this install, we are going to be removing these permanently. We're not going to be putting them back in. We're going to be moving them over into their other factory location here in the door. We want this to be open so that the sub base will come through these with no issue when we put our subwoofer in the trunk. But because of that, make sure that this is nice and rigid. Let's take a look at what we're going to be using to do that. We are going to be using the Ground Zero GZDM door kit. It's a full kit that has all the pieces we need in it to cover any surface. Inside the kit, we find 4 sheets of the GZDF 1500 SA high velocity elastic sound absorbing formed foam, of course with self-adhesive on the back. This is going to be for the actual plastic tray. This is going to stick to that and keep that nice and vibration free. For that dead air in between the top plastic and the bottom metal, we have 2 sheets of polyurethane foam, high density, self-adhesive and waterproof. 2 sheets of this will cover that rear deck rather nicely. And underneath that is going to be the GZDM 3750AB black Ground Zero dampening sheets. This has a layer of butyl on one side, this aluminum on the other. In this particular kit, there's 8 sheets of it. It is more than enough to do the 2 areas we're going to be concentrating on today.
So the tools we're going to use: razor knife, a roller, and I like to use a plastic panel tool to go over the corners that the roller can go. And of course you have to use gloves. The first step is we're going to clean the surface, because right here, if you see, is dust and we don't want the material not stick good in the metal.
Fernando is almost done with his first layer. We still have this back area to do. How many sheets have you used so far?
2.
So he's used 2. He's been way more efficient with his use because it's a nice flat area. The rear deck, there's gonna be a hole here. What you can do is once you get this area covered, you can come up from underneath and poke a hole through those and go back and cut them out. Kind of like cheating, but it'll work. His next step on the rear package tray is to add the foam to it to kill that dead space between the two.
Look at that, beautiful.
It does look beautiful. Good job. This is the factory sound treatment, and then we added ours over this. You really don't need to go over theirs unless you're just being like super crazy.
Right here is like a double metal.
Yeah, so you want to make sure that panel can still come apart for service. But be careful adding this in. You have to really pay attention to where it's at.